Hey, you're out in the garage with TheEZGZ. You guys are not going to believe what just happened to me. I'm trying to understand it myself. I was taking the dog to a park on the other side of town. I didn't have the camera with me. I was just twiddling along. This is my main ride. There's hardly a day goes by that I'm not going someplace in my Baja. It's just a daily ride. And about 20 minutes ago, the dog and I are on the other side of town. I come up at this stop sign and make a left-hand turn, and I'm not sure I even got it out of first gear. It's in a residential neighborhood, so I was going real slow, and all of a sudden I hear this knock, 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 and the engine slightly revs up, and it's like, oh shit, what is that? I didn't have any trouble. The car wouldn't go, and I knew it had something to do. It's like, gosh, I haven't hit anything. Did I break a CV joint? What is it, those Chinese axles that I got underneath here? And I crawled underneath to look around. This left rear axle was laying on top of the frame horns next to the transmission, and the CV joint had come off of the transmission flange. And I thought, well, what in the devil, what snapped, what broke, what's going on? Well, all of the bolts that hold the flanges together were still on the CV joint. And the holes were even lined up. I was parked in front of somebody's driveway, and I didn't have a tool with me. Luckily I had my phone, but there's nobody to call. It's like, I guess we're going to have to walk back home. Only thing I had in this car was this old sock, and that's all the greasier I got my hands. And the doggone, you can't do much without a tool. I didn't have a pair of pliers or nothing. I just threaded the ones that I could get to, about 4 of the bolts. I just threaded them in with my fingers. Luckily, the threads weren't damaged, and I just barely got it to start, and I drove it all the way home that way. Now, that may sound pretty crazy, but if indeed those things had backed out, there's a flange on that transmission side that the CV joint kind of fits into. It's kind of like a socket or something. It only goes in like 1/4 of an inch. I must have been driving this car with those things slowly coming loose until finally it just fell off. I don't know what to think. I tell you, a few weeks ago, I even crawled in the back seat and took the lid off my wooden box back here to find out what was making a noise in there. Because every now and then I'd hear this clunking noise, and I never knew, I couldn't find it. And I have a shock absorber mount on this side. I don't know if it was just from running a million miles loose, but the upper bolt, you have to make sure that's tight. Another thing I noticed when I was underneath there playing with this flange is the large Allen bolt that goes through your trailing arm on the torsion housing. I think that is starting to back off too. So I'm going to get a jack. I'll show you the bottom side view, but I am just like, what just happened to me? If that don't make you believe in Jesus, I mean, that could have happened on the highway going fast. It could have been in a traffic jam. It could have been on a main road. It could have been in foul weather. It just happened on this beautiful spring day, and I didn't have any tools, and I just thought, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try. I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if this is gonna work. I don't know what to do, but I just will try. And these are the kinds of things that happened to me. One time I was up in Michigan, and I was going through these little towns along one of the Great Lakes, and I was leaving a town and my gas gauge was low, and I wasn't sure how far the next town was. I wasn't there before. I wasn't paying attention to the signs, and I thought, well, I just passed a gas station and it looks like I'm leaving town. I better make a U-turn and go back to the gas station, and I filled up my tank with gas, and then I headed back down the road in the direction I was going, leaving town, and all of a sudden, the car quit. And what that was, I have my electric fuel pump in the Baja under the front tank, and my load had shifted in the trunk. I think I made a video of it while I was up there. And the wire pulled off my pump. Not the hot side where there were sparks on my gas tank or anything, but it just disconnected a wire and my pump shut off. And it must have been when I made that U-turn to go back to the station. There was just enough fuel in the carburetors. But these kinds of things happen to me on a somewhat regular basis. And in that particular situation, some guy on a motorcycle with his girlfriend stopped and came back. I saw your Volkswagen, you know, and out-of-state plates. I thought I'd check and see if you need help. One time I was in Boise, Idaho, behind an auto parts store, and I asked them if I bought my oil there, and I wanted to change oil. I didn't know what kind of issues I was having. Engine was running a little hot, and I had changed oil, and I installed the oil pressure gauge, and it was a brand new engine. And so I wanted to change the oil to a different weight oil, because I was going to get back on the interstate, and I could drop my oil. I bought a plastic pan, and I did it right there behind the store, and then I I poured the oil back into the jug, and I found a jug in the trash over there, and I poured the oil in it, took it back in so they could recycle it and I wouldn't have to carry it around. But some guy's driving by in a truck and sees me laying underneath my car and says, "Do you need help? You need any tools? I live right over here. I see you're from out of state. Gee, that's a cute little Baja you got. I used to have one of those." And, you know, that's how the story goes. I mean, thank you, Father. Thank you, Jesus. Anyhow, I'll turn you back on when I get underneath the car. I got to post this up. I mean, this was just amazing luck. I guess if I'm going to make a video about this, I'll give you the whole scoop. This is what I carry usually with me at all times. Not so much when I'm just putting around in town, but depends on what I've done to the car recently. Anytime I have the engine out, I'll carry this tool bag with me just 'cause. And it's soft, so it doesn't rattle, make noises. It'll conform, and I can stuff all my junk in there. Basically, anytime you need something, you just have to dump it all on the floor and look for what you need. In this case, I had this is just a cheapo Stanley socket set, and it goes up to 19 millimeter, and it's got this side's metric and this side's SAE, and I keep the tool, this Torx tool, in there, so I have it in case something like this would ever happen again. And let's see, that's even the right socket for it. I usually have a 1/4-inch drive set up. Oh, here it is. With a socket, spark plug socket, that I ground down the shoulder. I would have liked to cut it right about here as well, but with these type of manifolds with dual carbs, there's just no way you're going to get the doggone spark plug out of there, and you need the extension. So I always have this set up. You're more likely to lose a spark plug, have one fall out or something. You never know, but there's no way you can just go to a store and just buy something off the shelf that'll fit in there. So anytime you have custom stuff, that's a good way to do it. And I know that this, I worked on this transmission not long ago. I think it was last summer. Gosh, I want to believe it was last summer that I had to oil, just oil and grease. I had to go to the car wash. It was all over the body, it was everywhere. The grease was coming out of that, I thought it was from the axle boot, but I lost the seal, the little button inside the flange. You have to take that little plastic button off, and there's a snap ring that's a booger to get off of there to get those flanges off to take it all apart. And that I replaced that button, and I can't believe that I would completely take it off, repack it with grease, and put it back on, and not firmly tighten all of those bolts. Got the front wheels blocked because you can't access all the bolts on the CV joint unless you rotate the wheel around. I don't like putting that much pressure on the boot, so tire can turn. Let's go underneath there and I'll show you the angle of the dangle. Man, I was so lucky. Yeah, there's what the bottom of my vehicle looks like. My heater boxes. See, right here, it came loose. This bolt is still in there. The rubber's holding it. Can you see that? Barely got that thing caught. And these are aftermarket long spline axles without the snap rings on the end of it. And I do that because I have it lifted. If you take a hard side hit, you will, that's how you break the cages that hold the balls in these CV joints. And the other bolt that I need to check is this one from the side here. But looks like everything's pretty dry, and I would have thought that I would have gotten that thing all tightened up. I just can't imagine that thing being loose like that. I'm almost thinking I should take it off and inspect it a little bit closer. I've been thinking about dropping the motor on this thing just because when I push in the clutch it gets quiet, but if I'm sitting in neutral I hear this kind of a vibration or feel it, and that could be the pilot bearing on the back of your crankshaft with the needle bearings in it. If that is wearing, then you could have a little slop in your drive shaft, or it could be something in the transmission too. So I'm not sure about that. It may even be the throwout bearing. I've just been thinking about dropping this thing, but looks like my flywheel seal is getting plenty of lubrication. Here's a little feature. See those hex nuts for instead of a screwdriver slot for your relief valves? This is a aluminum block. Now comes the tricky part. Where do I put you? Where do I put you? I need to set you up on something. Give you a little bit of a angle. Are you getting bored yet? Now, normally, if I'm gonna go off-roading or I'm going on a long trip, I'll take a spare axle with the CDs on it and have it bagged and ready to go. La-di-da. Didn't even lose the bolts, for crying out loud. That just amazes me. I just barely had those things in there with my fingers, I'll tell you. I'm going to be telling this story more than once. You know what happened to me? Leave a comment down below of some strange breakdown that you may have had and you were able to limp home. You can bet I'll be checking both sides all the way around. I just must not have... You gotta figure that all of those bolts just didn't come loose at the same time. And the car wouldn't drive without them being in there. And that puts them in a weird kind of a shear where it's just a damn good thing I drive like an old man. I don't hot rod this thing and showing off and peeling out and doing crazy stuff. But I'll tell you, I drove the heck out of this thing last fall up in the mountains, and I knew I was going to be towing it, ground towing it. What would have happened if I was flat towing this thing and I'm up in the truck 25 feet away? I might not have even heard it. That thing could have come off, and it was still attached on the wheel side, but this axle would have just beat the crud out of everything in here before it came off, I would guess. Gosh, like I say, the more I think about this, the more thankful and totally amazed I am that it happened the way it did. It makes me want to cry. And all of them are going back in that flange. I'm not saying this is over yet, but I'll be carrying my tool bag with me, and I'm going to look around for that spare axle. I think it might be in the trunk, but if you don't have the tool to do this, that ain't going to do you much good. See what? Yeah, these are all tight. And they've got those little plates that go under the head of these. The boot's not even torn, you know? Well, these all appear to be tight. Now let me see what this big kahuna is doing here. It might be tight, but it looks like it's sticking out a ways. Yep. It's backing off. I've lost that bolt on the trail before. And I put a stick in there. I just jammed the stick, lifted it up. The trailing arm had kind of fallen down. And man. That's when I was just under here 2 days ago, and I tightened the wing nut on my clutch cable like 1.5 turns because it was getting closer to the floor. Now that's another thing that gives me an alarm. Oh, jeez, criminy. I can't believe a guy at my age is crawling around working on these stupid projects. Hey guys, it's a couple days later. I haven't done anything cold start. Maybe. Cold attempt. Hey guys, it's a couple days later. I needed to get an in for this video. All I did was tighten down that flange, and it's just been a cold wind the last 3 days here since I made that. It was nice on the day that I had the incident show up, but it's been really windy, and I've been racking my brain thinking that I just forgot to tighten it. I just don't have any kind of an explanation for how or why that happened. And, you know, that's pretty important. I know I changed the seal inside the transmission flange, and I have that little tool set up and ready to go, unless I didn't torque it properly. But still, to have that thing go together with no apparent damage, I still want to, I'll probably do a separate video on that as to complete disassembly, because I want to take the trailing arm off and brace it, paint it, and I also want to lower the back of the car. I think I'm going to go like 1 spline on the torsion bar, so that it's more of a level position, so the CVs don't work more, because the more the angle, the more your CV joint's going to work. And I have spent considerable hours on the interstate highways, and I'll reach down there and just touch where the CV is, or shoot it while I'm shooting the engine. You see me with that infrared gun. I'm shooting temps on the different places on the engine and stuff, and I'll shoot the CV joints from time to time just to see what's up. And I can't really give you a number off the top of my head of what they usually are. I'm thinking, you know, 125, something like that, you know, 100, 140. I'll have to make a mental note to put a little bit more effort into actually getting an accurate reading if that's what you're interested in for comparison. So anyhow, thanks for watching. Thanks for subbing. TheEZGZ out. I'm headed to yoga.